So Josh, if you would want to start us off and just kind of kick us off, I know I appreciate you joining us. But Josh, you want to talk to us about Are You Quick? So I'm guessing most people know who you are, Josh. You've been around, you've been doing a lot of stuff online. But if you just want to just give a quick intro to yourself, or maybe there's a few people that aren't familiar with all the work and all the things you've been doing.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome and pleasure to be here. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Vasco, for inviting me. I'm the CEO of Industrial Logic. We're one of the oldest Agile consultancies around. Started doing this before the Agile word was even being used. So we go back to 1996, and our company is a small global company, and we help other companies get a whole lot better at Agile and Lean and what we call modern Agile. So heavily focused on getting real business outcomes and not just following ceremonies. I wrote a book called Refactoring to Patterns many years ago, working on a new book about modern Agile, and happy to be here.
Excellent. So you say a small company. Tell us a little bit about your company, Industrial Logic, Josh.
We're a little over 60 people at this point, helping customers globally on 3 different continents, sometimes 4. We really are known for helping at the technical level, but we have lots of people that are also extremely good working with leadership and management to change their thinking, lean thinking, and in using modern Agile principles to help influence behavior. Like I said, we've been around since 1996, so we're 23 years in business. Helped a lot of companies you've heard of, name brand companies in the Fortune 10. We also work with smaller companies. And
but Josh, you want to talk to us today about Are You Quick? So I know working with Vasco and you on this, you've got a lot of things here you want to talk about, but why don't you start us off and kind of lay the groundwork of what inspired this?
Absolutely. What inspired this is my devotion, if you will, to the definition of agility. We're going to talk about this. However, I just want to point out that if you asked 100 people what Agile means, you will get 100 completely different answers. And my understanding and appreciation of agility has been changing over the years. It's been expanding, if you will. It's been getting more precise as well. So part of the reason for giving this talk is to help people get closer and closer to the real, genuine nature of agility.
So I'm guessing as you've kind of come through this, your definition and listening to other people has evolved as well.
Yeah, I definitely, my thinking on it has evolved a lot. Part of it has been that the industry, the software industry, has, really exploded in terms of interest in Agile, and it's gone past the software industry into other industries as well. Mm-hmm. So other human endeavors, whether it's people doing drug development or marketing or sales. There's all kinds of people interested in being more Agile these days. Harvard Business Review had it on their front cover of the magazine. Everyone wants to be Agile. So that means we have to think about and talk about Agile in a language that works for a variety of people, not just folks involved in IT or software.
So what, in your mind, and maybe from your perspective, how has that changed Agile and the kind of perspectives and the frameworks and various things?
Well, I think a lot of people think Agile means Agile software development. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think Agile means Scrum, or Agile means their specific practice. Maybe it's the Scaled Agile framework, whatever happens to be popular. They equate Agile with that. They also talk about doing Agile as if it were a recipe instead of an adjective. So Agile, the adjective, means that we are trying to be Agile at whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
So I keep coming back to the definition, and if you look at a variety of dictionaries, you will always see that quickness is a part, not the whole, but a part of agility.
Mm. And I'm
That's what
guessing a lot of
inspired.
people focus on that part alone.
Yes, there are harmful ways to think about speed,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to talk about that. It's a very difficult line to be on, because you can easily fall prey to haste.
Yeah. So in your mind, what are some of those, I guess, because it kind of sounds like it's a double-edged sword, that speed is good to a point, but then there's some points where it's not the be all, the end all.
Correct. The speed thing is part of the definition. So what is the definition of agile, right? If you look at a variety of dictionaries, from the Oxford English Dictionary to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, you'll often see the word quick in there, but it's not alone. It's easy as well. Quick and easy. Quick, easy grace. Quick, resourceful, and adaptable. But quick is always in there. And if you only think it's quick, you're missing the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about speed. It's also about ease and grace.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to make that mistake of just going after quickness and missing the other parts. And we're going to talk about that today. The other thing is that if you're getting it wrong, I think if you're going too fast, where you're out of control,
Mm-hmm.
where you're dangerous, you're potentially harming yourself, your reputation, the company's reputation. I don't call that quickness. I call that haste. And as we know, haste makes waste. There's all these little phrases. The one that I like best is from John Wooden, who was the award-winning coach of the UCLA basketball team, the Bruins.
Yeah.
And he would say, be quick, but don't hurry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you've heard that term, what you have to understand is there's a fine line between being quick and hurrying.
Do you see that? And I'm just kind of thinking back through my experience. Is there at certain points in our careers maybe that we are hasty, or is it maybe have it to do more with, I guess, perhaps maybe different positions that people maybe focus on the incorrect thing, or what are your thoughts on that, Josh?
I think, like, if you look at the long term, so the interesting thing about speed is you have to think about the long term. You can do something really fast, mm-hmm. and it might actually harm you in the long term. You can do something that is fast and is perfectly good for the long term. Yeah. So part of it is looking at the long-term effects of something. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, if you really want to be genuinely agile. I mean, you can always, so that's the thing, you can always say, in that moment, this person was very agile. Yeah. Right? They ate the fast food. Mm-hmm. They got their meal done quickly. But, several years down the line, they're having health issues. That might not be ultimately what real agility is. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. Yeah. All right. Well, we're talking about this concept of are you quick? I had previously given a talk called "Are You Curious?" by the way. So I'm trying to do a sequence of these talks that I think are pretty important to agility, and curious is one of those. Quick is another. So the definition of agile that I like is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and it says characterized by this ready ability to move with quick, easy grace, or having a quick, resourceful, and adaptable character. As you see, quickness is in both of these definitions, right? And again, go to other dictionaries, you'll find the same thing. So this is John Wooden, the guy there in the circle. And he was the coach of the UCLA Bruins, considered one of the greatest coaches of the 20th century. He brought that team to championships many times. And this was his very famous phrase, be quick, but don't hurry. And he would often say to his players, you really got to find that line between being quick and not hurrying. And that's This involves thinking. So it's probably going to be really unpopular because it's not just a recipe you can follow. It requires thinking. Okay, am I being quick right now or am I hurrying? I like to say speed is good, but haste is harmful. And we have to be able to distinguish between speed and haste. Okay. So I want to tell a quick story. It's a printer company you've probably heard of. They put out a brand new printer. They wrote the driver software for the printer, 2 million lines of code. Everything worked. They shipped it. People bought it. It was popular. Everyone was happy. Then they decided to put out a new edition of the printer, and they copied the 2 million lines of code. They made a new repository. They modified it to work with the new printer, and they shipped it. And then they did that 3 more times. And then they did that even more until they'd done it 18 times. In other words, they'd taken the 2 million lines of code and duplicated it 18 times. Now they had 36 million lines of code.
Wow.
Every time there was a bug, they'd have to go fix it in 18 different code bases. This is exactly what I mean when I talk about haste, right? You're being hasty in the way you're getting this printer out the door. And you might be rewarded for it. This is the thing that, you know, there might be rewards for the business outcomes of getting the printer out the door and sold, you know, bonuses, promotions. However, long-term effect of this, the same company now sees this as an organizational black eye. They look at this as something they never want to have happen again. I literally had someone in my class. He said, "I'm lucky, Josh, because when I fix a defect, I only have to fix it on 10 of the 18 code bases, not all 18."
Lucky.
Yeah. Now, what we know in software is that they very, very likely could have taken the 2 million lines of code, modified it to allow it to be configured to handle the different printers, the 18 different printers, right? Same code base, using good software engineering design to make it work across multiple devices. Instead, they hurried, copied and pasted, and just made a mess. So I want to be really clear. There's a lot of ways to screw up when you think you're going fast. There's even, as I said, incentives to do things with haste that reward you financially, but are ultimately very bad for the organization.
What about that, Josh? You talk about incentives. I'm guessing, and kind of talk about, I guess, so many other externalities. You know, maybe if we want to focus on software, but there's externalities of maybe it's a VP getting a bonus, or maybe it's you know, somebody wanting to ship something by a certain date. You know, we have the holiday season coming up. Maybe there's a product that they want to have on the shelves at a certain time. But talk to us about how we can, you know, handle some of those externalities and that pressure, and still be, in your term, quick.
So the issue here was that there was initial speed followed by tremendous slowness. That is to say, fixing defects across all 18 printers was incredibly slow. So we're not looking for flash in the pan speed. We're not looking for just a short amount of speed. We're looking for sustained speed. This illustrates how they missed that opportunity. They missed the opportunity for sustained speed. So over time, they slowed down and slowed down and slowed down. And we've all seen this with legacy code, where there's so many quality issues that, you know, you're going really slow. You can barely get anything done. Management's unhappy. They want to outsource it because they think no one can develop software anymore around here. When a lot of times it's a lot of poor decisions that have been made in the name of haste or speed, but it's really haste, leading to ultimately going quite slow. So like I said, I think you have to think about this definition of agile: quick, easy grace over this long period of time. Right? It's not that you can just have a short burst of speed and that you're really being agile.
Yeah. I like how you focused on the holistic, like you talked about that before, that it's a long-term thing as opposed to, you know, maybe you get that first thing done and then repeat it, but it's not a good design and it ends up being slower in the long term.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's go on here. Now, my colleague at Industrial Logic, he's another Agile consultant and programmer, coach, well-known person named Tim Ottinger. Tim started to notice that the word faster was causing issues, and that he started to speak about sooner. Can we get results sooner? Can we focus on learning sooner? Can we get out of this kind of breakneck speed thing where we're going as fast as we can and we're really out of control, and speak about getting the results sooner? Now, it's a play on words in some sense. Sooner, if I accomplish something sooner than later, well, hopefully I would say that that was a faster way of accomplishing the results, right? So it's just a different word that you can use if you prefer. If you don't like the word speed, maybe you can start using the word sooner instead and saying, let's get things done sooner. Yeah. And this is, a lot of people have been scarred by the word faster or by speed or by quickness. They've been scarred by it. Precisely because it wasn't really genuinely agile. It was this kind of haste, right? Hastiness. So that's an alternate word to consider, as using the word sooner. Now, fast food, right? Hey, look at this. But if you look at the long-term effects of fast food, anyone's going to tell you it's going to lead to, it's higher in fat, calories, cholesterol, sodium. Eating too much can cause health risks, high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity. You're not going to see that with one visit to a fast food joint. Yeah. But over time, you really can see this, and it's invisible to a large extent. You're eating this stuff, and you're not even aware of what it can do. So, again, fast food. It's called fast food. We think of it as fast, but it's really hasty food. Yep. Right? It's not helping us over the long haul. So it's this fake speed, right? Faux speed. Be careful of it. So speed is not haste. Let's distinguish those two, because we like speed. We think speed's important. What do you like to be fast? I'll ask the audience here. Okay. How about customer service? How many of you here like slow customer service? Kind of a killer, right? Yeah. You sit around waiting for customer service. I mean, you're not a happy camper. No. No one likes that. It's very important for us to provide high-speed customer service. Keep our customers happy. Food, right? Again, we want the food served quickly, but we want it to be high quality. We want it to be healthy for us, and so forth. Computers. Who here loves working on slow computers? Nobody. How about learning? Do you want to learn quickly? Or do you want the learning? And again, learning can take years. Like I'm still learning about agility. I'm constantly, trying to improve at my own personal agility. So there's long-term. We're gonna talk about the long-term. Short-term, though, I want to learn as quickly as I can. Yeah. I want the learning loops to be fast. I want it to be minimize waste as much as possible. I want to learn quickly. Recovery from, let's say, an accident, or you hurt yourself. I want to recover quickly. Phones. Yeah, I want my phone to be fast. Transportation. Sure. Faster the better, as long as it's safe. Yes. Process. I'd like my processes to be fast too. If they're slow, if they're complicated, if they lead to continuing problems, they're not ultimately leading to getting results sooner. So I want to look at my process and say, how can it be faster, but while remaining safe? So as an example, in our own product, an e-learning product we built ourselves, I came back from a conference once really excited about a feature idea, an ability for the students of our e-learning to communicate with each other via chat. We have a Q&A feature, but what if the students wanted to just spontaneously start chatting with each other on a given page in the e-learning? So I'd learned at this point not to build such a feature right away based on a guess. Instead, I used one of many techniques. This one's called a feature fake. We hard coded this into every page of our e-learning. Every single page had this now. 16 users from 4 countries are online right now. Join the chat. Completely fake. We only wanted 100 people to see it, and then we took it down. This is a feature fake. It's one of many different types of testing that you can do, high-speed validation of features. I would not do this all the time because I'd really annoy my customers if I did. But if you clicked join the chat, it brought up a little box. It said, hey, the new group chat feature may be available soon. How likely would you be to use it? Remember, we've done nothing more than just throw a little piece of HTML into a page here asking users to join a chat. We have a little survey, and then we asked, we said, oh, we only want 100 people to see this, then we're taking it down. So it was only online relatively short period of time. And the results told us that 22 people clicked on the link, join the group chat. Out of the 22, only a small fraction of those, I think it was like 14, 15 here, chose to actually take the, the survey. And we ultimately saw that, not enough were really that interested in this feature. So we decided not to really pursue it.
Yeah.
And that basically taught us that, hey, not enough people interested, maybe let's not do this, okay? So let's reflect on this for a minute. We spent a total of about 2 to 3 hours doing this experiment, including all of the programming and analyzing the results, 2 to 3 hours to discover data that told us, let's not do it. Let's not build this feature, it's not important enough. And we all know software that's filled with so many features that we never use, right? We would have had to maintain this code, we would have had to write it, test drive it, refactor it. It would have added to our code base, and we decided not to do it based upon this very high speed and safe experimentation.
So now, something like this, Josh, this validation, how common or how often do you use something like this?
Oh, all the time. I mean, especially when it comes to entire product ideas. We will validate whether the entire product idea makes any sense. We will do it in the most inexpensive and fast way possible. So we've now done this several times where we've had an idea for a product. We use various techniques like concierge MVP, where we pretend to be the computer and we're doing the work behind the scenes manually, but it looks like a computer is doing it, and we test it out on people, and we gather data and interview people and figure out, is this viable or not? Yeah. High speed experimentation, high speed learning, speed, okay? Now, just stepping back for a minute on the feature fake, I could say, wait a minute, Josh, hold on a minute. You were too hasty in making this decision because you didn't A/B test the language. In other words, we only did one test. We put this 16 users from 4 countries are online right now, join the chat. We didn't try other phrases and other, types of tests for this. In theory, we could have done that as well. So you could have said, well, you kind of, made the decision too hastily. You could have potentially done a few more tests to see if people were genuinely interested. Some would even say that, hey, 22% of 100 people, that is 22 people, clicking on join the chat kind of means that maybe you did have something there. So what I'm trying to say here is, you got to be careful in your experimentation to do it in a way that you think is ultimately safe for making a conclusion. Otherwise, you could argue that was too hasty as well.
Yeah.
Again, fine line between speed and haste.
Interesting.
This book here that just came out, Testing Business Ideas by David Bland and Alex Osterwalder, there's about 44 different experiments you can try in terms of testing your business ideas, right? And the idea goes back to this concept of let's not waste a ton of time. Let's be efficient and learn faster. Again, speed being really critical in business. And hopefully everyone on this call has read The Lean Startup. The Lean Startup is a fantastic book that has lots of great examples of how to test your business ideas. Different MVPs you can try, different approaches to building an MVP.
Mm-hmm. Lots of good validated learning, I think is the term they use in that.
That's right, validated learning. And you're constantly wanting to either invalidate or validate something as quickly as you can. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk is someone that I respect quite a bit. Many of you have probably never heard of him, but he helped his father's business, a little liquor store in New Jersey, America, go from $3 million a year in revenue to $60 million a year. Then he started VaynerMedia with his brother, and now it's up to 800 employees in just 5 years, and over 100 million in revenue each year. This guy is a absolute business guru. I think of him as the most modern, agile person I know. I've had the fortune to meet him a few times. He talks about micro speed. That is, throughout his day, he's very fast. And ultimately, he's looking at macro patience. You have to be patient too. You don't want to be, hyperactive in terms of like everything you're doing. You can have those long-term goals. You can have the thing you're going for, and it requires patience to do anything meaningful. But you can be working at a pace that's high speed and hopefully not hasty.
Yeah.
So Gary says, that speed is much bigger aspect of business than most people realize. And in his shop, he really believes that it's about doing stuff quickly and, not just pondering, thinking, posturing, debating for months and months and months. We came across one team, they spent 8 months deciding whether to use one JavaScript framework over another.
Wow.
8 months. 8 months before they made a choice.
Don't want to jump into anything,
Right. Don't want to make a choice. Don't want to, So Gary he's happy to fail. He's happy to learn, but he's not happy to go slow. Right. Now, if many of you think about waterfall, a lot of times with waterfall, we were analyzing, designing, and then building and then testing, maybe to find out we were not really building exactly what the customer wanted. Maybe the requirements at that point had gotten stale. Maybe competitors had already done something that invalidated many of the requirements. The learning loop was very, very slow. One of the entire ideas behind Agile was to make the learning loop faster, to learn faster, to fail faster, by actually putting things in front of real customers and getting feedback from them quicker, sooner. So that goes hand in hand with what Gary's saying here is, get into a doing mode, get into a get shit done mode, put stuff in front of people and learn rapidly, So I like to look at companies that are starting to embrace speed. There's a new language now called Dark. And they basically said, you know what? Software development has gotten so bloody complicated. There's so many tools to learn and frameworks and modern technologies that don't play well with each other, and you got to set up everything yourself. It's just a complete mess. They go back to Fred Brooks, who wrote The Mythical Man Month.
Yeah.
And Fred talked about accidental complexity versus essential complexity, right? Certain businesses are complex. There's a complexity to them that's essential. It's part of their business. Like let's say laws in certain parts of your country, right? The laws can be somewhat complicated. It's not great, but it is what it is. And if you have to build some software to navigate those laws, you do. That's essential complexity. Accidental complexity is just all of the cruft and just stuff that's accumulated over the years that gets in the way of being fast. So Dart comes along and says, let's make modern software development far easier. Forget about building your own pipeline, continuous deployment pipeline. We've got it done for you. Forget about Git, the version control tool. Forget about all these different aspects that you might have to learn for software development. We're going to create a language that just makes it extremely fast and safe for you to deploy things. Now, it's a new language. It's in beta. You probably won't even have your hands on it until it comes out of beta. It's just that they're focusing on a whole architecture that enables you to do the kind of continuous deployment that's, sub 1 second, 50 milliseconds to deploy something. Mm-hmm. And that's built into the language.
So removing a lot of those unnecessary decisions that I guess people kind of, like you were talking about the framework. Oh, what JavaScript framework are you going to talk about it for 8 months and then make a decision, but have it all packaged, ready to go.
That's right. So simplify as much as possible to get it down to the essence of what you need to do and enable you to move with quick, easy grace. Mm-hmm. This goes way back, though. This is Darklang is modern, whereas rapid application development, for some of the folks that have been around a long time, may have heard of this, right? Rapid application development. Again, that doesn't mean, low quality. So it was high speed, high quality, and low cost. I remember learning about RAD. It was called RAD at the time. It's early 90s, early 1990s. And I remember reading about it and being really impressed, because what they said was, there's a time and a place to approach things from a perspective of RAD. One thing that really compelled me was they said, Microsoft has spent tens of millions of dollars to develop Excel and Word and PowerPoint. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes you could develop on top of that technology and leverage all the millions of dollars of investment and build your solution on top. And you could do it very rapidly. And we did some things like this, where, complex calculations. When I worked on Wall Street and we were doing very complicated things, there were times when we would just build right on top of Excel and leverage all the power inside of Excel. And that was rapid application development. Mm-hmm. So again, we've always been focused on speed. Now, if that didn't scale well, or if it didn't, work well over time because there were maintenance issues and things crashing, obviously that would have not been a very high speed approach for the long haul. Mm-hmm. So you have to make decisions, right? I remember I used to work with a quant. A quant is a person that comes up with all these complex calculations for, in this case, it was financial systems and doing risk management on financial applications or financial trades. And he would do things like sketch things in Excel, but we weren't going to leave them there. We would program them in an actual programming language and get them into a real system, right? We didn't want them just living in Excel. So that was a different story. You're talking about a risk management system for the entire bank, had to be well designed and architected into a software system. It wasn't going to live in Excel. On the other hand, doing some high-speed analysis all the time, perfectly fine to do it in Excel. You have to choose your tools wisely.
Yeah.
So this is not a new concept about speed, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at modern, strategy, right? This is Reid Hoffman's book. Reid Hoffman's the inventor of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And he has a new book out called Blitzscaling. And he really focuses on speed, the lightning fast path to building massively valuable companies. It's a fascinating book. And what he's talking about here is prioritizing speed over efficiency in the face of uncertainty. So especially when we don't know what we need to go do, when we're in a fog, when we have conditions of uncertainty, going fast is very helpful for really quickly discovering what we really want to be doing.
Now, Josh, I want to ask you a question. I know you mentioned Fred Brooks earlier, and I believe he talks about that there's no silver bullets. Do you feel at some point, do we focus on some of these things as they're maybe the new silver bullet? Like you brought up RAD. I remember RAD, and that was going to be the the be all end all, everything was going to be, but as you mentioned, some of those things ran into like scaling issues or, maintenance issues. You look at certain things. So talk to us a little bit about, as we, maybe we look at new opportunities that might help us with speed, that make sure we're not chasing like a silver bullet or something that just might not pan out.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you think a lot about the enemy here, what's the enemy? Like at Federal Express, right? Federal Express, they deliver packages. Their enemy is time.
Yeah.
Time is their enemy. In our field, our enemy is ignorance. And the problem is, a lot of people can be suckered into buying stuff. They can be suckered into buying a framework, a silver bullet. And the sales is so beautiful. It's all glossy and it talks about great things and awesome outcomes and it's agile and it's this and it's that. And they buy it hook, line, and sinker, I'm going to go buy it. They've been really reel them in.
Yeah.
And they start to spread this around their organization. And I was just having this conversation with Pat Reed, who's an executive agile coach. Many times these agile recipe driven, frameworks, they kind of become quicksand in the organization. Quicksand. This is the way we're supposed to do it. We have a new agile bureaucracy. And it's not very much consistent with the definition of quick, easy grace. Like one thing I like to look at is how quickly can you change your process? If your process is really static and embedded and you can't change it easily, I doubt it's very agile. Mm-hmm. So we have to be super, super careful of helping people to distinguish what real agility is from what seems like agility. Yeah. And most people are not educated buyers. They're just not. So most companies have gone through several waves of trying to adopt agile. Sometimes they lose all taste for it. And I've heard places they're like, please don't mention the word agile around here. Because they've just had too many failures from it. Yeah. Change is really hard. It's really hard. Mm-hmm. So what we're saying is, the nature of change is hard, sure. Can you learn quickly? Speed is important in Agile because you need to learn quickly. Maybe you need to invalidate a framework that may not actually deliver for you. How could you safely invalidate the adoption of a framework, for example?
Yeah. If you had any final thoughts, Josh, to close up with?
I would say I'd love to give you a little more of a better guidance in terms of how to make a decision between what might be genuine speed or quick and what would be harmful, but it's so contextual. It really, truly is. It really is based on context. I know, like, in the last several years, I've been cooking a lot more, much more healthy food. What I've discovered is that by cooking, I have leftovers. And the leftovers enable me to eat healthy but fast.
Yeah.
So like, the night before I'll cook something, then there'll be leftovers. I might eat it for breakfast or I might eat it for lunch, and it is super, super fast. So, it is fast food. It's just that it's healthy fast food. Mm-hmm. I just try to use that as an analogy for, what you're ultimately looking at is a healthy outcomes for the future. And the micro speed decisions you're making need to lead up to those healthy outcomes, right? If you're using speed and it's driving you into poor health or poor business results or whatever, that's not real speed. It's not real quickness in the sense of quick, easy grace. Mm-hmm. Think about the printer company. The printer company really did do things quickly, but it wasn't quick. It was haste. Yeah. They hastily put these things out in the name of quickness. In the name of business success, they hurt themselves in the long run. So again, this is not easy to get right in an organization because organizations are often hyper-focused on today's success. They don't even look out in the future. So you're very much tied into how are people being bonused? How are people being rewarded? And that has to be in harmony with genuine agility. So I'd say anytime you're focusing on a larger scale agile transformation, your people operations folks, otherwise known as HR, need to be heavily involved and really understand the nature of true agility.
Yeah, it's something the whole company has to have an understanding, right?
That's correct. And it's very easy to misunderstand it. That's why I go back to the dictionary, because it's hard to argue with the friggin' dictionary, right? It's very hard to argue there. I wish we could all just agree this is what the word means. It doesn't mean adaptive. Adaptive is a fantastic word.
Yeah.
Right? And the field that we've decided to create here is called Agile. And adaptive is great. I love to be adaptive. But the definition of Agile, the second one I like is quick, resourceful, and adaptable. Literally, they use the word adaptable in the definition. Mm-hmm. So you're quick, you're resourceful, and you're adaptable. That's a second definition of it.
Martin
my favorite
has a question here. He asks, what approach do you recommend to determine when one should pivot?
Sure. So part of it is instinct. There's no question that some instincts are there. But part of it too is, are you getting to product market fit? When you've achieved product market fit, right? Product market fit means more and more people want to use your software or your product, and you're seeing it, when you're asking people. So basically there's this question you can ask, which is how unhappy would you be if you didn't have access to this product or service? And you're trying to get to at least 40% of people say, I would be extremely unhappy if I didn't have access to this solution or product, service, whatever it is, right? 40% of people saying I would be extremely unhappy to get there. So if you're not getting to that number, and you have to be asking people all the time, it's very different from saying, would you, the net promoter score thing, would you recommend this to a friend on a scale of 1 to 10? This is different. This is basically, and I'm forgetting the person who invented this question at the moment, but it's a brilliant way to look at it, asking how unhappy would you be if you didn't have access. Mm-hmm. There's a company that is out there now. They're called Superhuman. I don't know if any of you have heard them before. Superhuman makes a very, very fast email system. So for people that handle large volumes of email, they absolutely love it. Better than Google, better than Gmail. It is super, super fast. It has all kinds of quick optimizations, keystrokes, and things to do things fast, and it's written fast, so it's extraordinarily quick in terms of microseconds, right? And they had to find a way to get to that product market fit. And they wanted to use a metric. The metric that they chose was, again, that question, how unhappy would you be if you didn't have access to this? And they managed to not only broke through the 40% mark, they got higher and higher and higher. Then now, like, everyone wants to use the product. They're doing extremely well. But prior to that, they had to focus in on, before they hit 40%, they did have to make some changes. I wouldn't say it's a full product pivot, but they certainly, changed up what they were going after to make the customers just extraordinarily happy. The company's called Superhuman. They want to give someone a tool for email that makes them almost superhuman, right? That goes hand in hand with our modern agile principle, make people awesome.
Yeah.
So that may help you in terms of your question. Again, I can try to forward some links after the call if you want to read some more about that. Sure, and you can follow me, or follow me at Joshua Kerievsky. I can tweet some things and point some stuff out there for looking at what are some metrics you might want to use to tell you when to pivot.
Very good. Very good. Well, hey, Josh, we'll really appreciate you sharing all this with us, and appreciate your time and everybody joining on.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate everyone coming today. And yeah, let's continue the conversation online.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.
Thank you.